Let's have a look at the end of season awards then and see where the prizes are going to. Best player, who have they gone for? Mo Salah was the Football Writers' Player of the Year, but Kevin De Bruyne is Jamie's pick and Heung-min Son is Gary. So why not Mo Salah, Jamie?
I mean, you're debating it today when you're looking at sort of the numbers as well. I mean, I don't think I actually had Kevin De Bruyne in my team at the halfway point of the season, but Salah was no doubt the best player for the first half of the season, but I think De Bruyne in the second half of the season. And I just think of sort of the vital goals he's got, not just in the Premier League. You think of what happened at Wolves, but the goal against Atletico Madrid, against United, against Liverpool. And for me, I think he's been Player of the Year the last 2 years. I think PFA Player of the Year. I think he is the best player in the league. I absolutely love Kevin De Bruyne. He's probably the one player, if I take Liverpool out of the equation, or I think if I'm going to watch someone, I think I'm watching Kevin De Bruyne today. It's just, he does things, and I said, I think last week, I think he's the greatest player to ever play for Manchester City. I'm saying that from afar. I'm not a City guy, but yeah, I think he's going to be one of the all-time greats in the Premier League. I think he's, we always talk about Gerrard, Scholes, Lampard. I think when Kevin De Bruyne finishes, it'll be which one out of them four. He's well in that category. And
Heung-min Son, Gary, has he been the spark that looks like it might have fired Spurs back into the Champions League, though the job's not done yet?
One goal off Mo Salah, playing for a team that is completely different in style, that's not as good. And what Tottenham are now going to do at the end of this season, I think everyone loves him. I think he could play for any team in the world. If he's available now, any team in Europe would take him. De Bruyne, absolutely amazing. I was probably marking Salah and De Bruyne down for no reason, really, because they are the best two players probably in the league. I mean, De Bruyne, I think, just slightly because in Madrid, I know he came off, but you wanted him to go and grab that game by the scruff of the neck and take City into the Champions League if you're Manchester City. And he just not doing that just made me feel it. And then coming back and playing like he did in the next two games was great. And he's an unbelievable player. I agree. He's the best player that I watch every single week in terms of mesmerises me. Salah, after thinking of the channels, he could easily be the best player in the world this year, let alone best player in this league. But Son doesn't get the recognition he deserves, and for what he's done now consistently, and 21 goals, to be one off Mo Salah in a team that's nowhere near as good, that doesn't get the service of from the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson and all the other players that he plays alongside. I think he just deserved a mention, really. And deserves the award. I don't think you could take it off him, but on the other hand, you couldn't argue if it went to De Bruyne or Salah either.
No arguments here on the best young player this season. They're in agreement on a player there's been a lot of talk about, Declan Rice. Have we seen big strides from him, Gary, this season?
Yeah, the player, I think, the English player that probably all the top clubs want, whether they can get him out of West Ham, whether they can afford him, is another matter. He may have to do another season at West Ham, because West Ham will lose the value, obviously, if they keep him for two. He's just been a really good performer in a great West Ham season, and getting to that semi-final of Europa League and where they've done, just how they've done. He's a massive player for them. Massive player.
Next category, best new player. We were talking about signings or someone that perhaps has come into the league for the first time, a young player that's burst through. Jamie, a Spurs player, Christian Romero.
Yeah, I really like him. Listen, I could have gone for Diaz as well. I mean, I've raved about him since he came in January, but I think maybe with Romero being my position, I remember watching him at Man City this season. I thought, oh, there's something special about him. And every time I watch him play, he takes the ball, he's aggressive. He reminds me of Carvalho at Chelsea, but he's not the biggest of defenders, but he's clever, he's switched on, he's streetwise, he's getting in front of people, he's cool on the ball. I really like. I think Tottenham got a real player then. I think he suits the back three, as I said, because he's not the biggest. But I think he's a top player. And as I said, he reminds me of Carvalho. I've really been impressed with him.
Spurs were desperate to get Luis Diaz. He has fitted in to that Liverpool team like a dream. So is that because it's a great environment to go into, or is it just an exceptional talent we are seeing?
Both. But I think to hit the ground running like he did in January. Look, Salah and Mane go to the AFCON. And you're telling me that Liverpool are going to be in 3 finals and they're going to be basically going to probably the last day on the Premier League? No chance. Absolutely no chance. City have won the league by 10 points. They've not got that sort of, if you like, backup for the front three. All of a sudden he comes in and he's absolutely sensational. Absolutely sensational. To the point whereby when Mo Salah does leave, 12 months, whenever it might be this summer, you're almost not going to be as sad as a Liverpool fan because you've got a ready-made replacement in terms of how he plays. Unbelievable talent. What a player.
Best coaching performance. Really tough category, this one. Pep Guardiola might well win the league, but you've both gone for Jurgen Klopp. Gary, kick us off.
3 finals, getting close to City. It's undisputed. What he's done this season is absolutely exceptional, because I thought Liverpool genuinely, he built that great team that had that 3 or 4 years, and I thought generally they were just going over the edge a little bit. I thought they were just starting to decline, not a big amount, but then he just brought them back, and it's absolutely brilliant what he's done. He's done a brilliant job.
I think on the back of last season, Jurgen Klopp said how that was the toughest season of his managerial career, and to come back, and that's, I think, one of the biggest strengths of Jurgen Klopp is his actual, not tact, obviously he's brilliant at everything, but his personality, his character. You think of when Liverpool went so close to the title, and they lost it by a point to City, and then they come back and win the league the next season. That sort of, to be able to come back and fight. And where they found themselves last season with the injuries, only made one sign in the summer, Kanate, who was really a squad player. Really, you know, a backup centre-back, really. That's all they bought. And they've played 60 games this season, Liverpool. They've lost 3. It's unbelievable.
Do you know what? His guts in games, his changes, his substitutions, how he interferes with matches, I think he's the best. And it is his spirit and personality that is infectious. That's obviously massive. It's important in Liverpool as a city. But the way in which he has the guts to rotate, the way in which he interferes with matches, the way in which he goes for it he's a fantastic manager, one of the very best.
He's got 2, could still win 2 more trophies. What about the goal of the season? Who have we gone for? Jamie?
I went for Mo Salah v Man City. I just remember actually watching it. It was just below me where we were in the box covering the game. I mean, it was just brilliant. It really was. I mean, classic Salah. We saw him score that type of goal so often in his first season at the club. But it's also the opposition he's up against. It's Manchester City. Yeah, the occasion, you know, and listen, there's different types of goals you see in a season, and sometimes we see some, you know, long-range shots that go straight in the top corner. I never normally like picking those as a goal of the season, because I sometimes think, you know, sometimes it can go anywhere type of thing, but that's a type of goal you just don't see often. It's a Lionel Messi type of goal, and that's why I went for that one, because you just don't see it so often.
What was your pick?
Kovacic. I could have picked that one. I like picking a goal where I was at the game, and this was just, it was a brilliant moment. I mean, it's a decent punch, height, distance, and he has to back. You know, he has to take those 3 or 4 steps back, and that was the thing. And then he just skips as he hits it. I thought that was an amazing goal in a great game.
Yeah, we've been spoilt this year, haven't we? And there's been a lot of debate about the team of the year as well, but there has been some agreement. I think most of the picks have featured around certainly the top 4 clubs this season, and we've got 7 players in agreement. Alisson in goal of Liverpool, Liverpool's Van Dijk at centre-half, 2 City midfield players in midfield, De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva. Mo Salah gets in both teams, as do Harry Kane and Heung-min Son of Spurs. So we've got 3 spaces in the back 4 to fill and 1 in midfield. Let's have a look what Jamie went for. Fill in those blanks. 2 Liverpool players, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Joel Matip at centre-half, Cancelo at left-back and Declan Rice in midfield. Joel Matip, Jamie, second best centre-back in the league this season. Discuss.
Well, you're saying that as if you don't agree with me, but what I'm saying is that...
the question.
No, you are. But he's been fantastic. He's been as good as Virgil van Dijk this season. He's been outstanding. He really has. And I think last season, I may have said Diaz was Player of the Year. I just think he's maybe not being himself. He's had a few injury problems, but I think Matip this season, his ability to come out with the ball as well, the defensive record alongside Virgil van Dijk is outstanding. I could have maybe gone for a City centre-back in there if you like. Laporte's played maybe a little bit more than Diaz, but no, I think Matip's been outstanding this season. And
Diaz, you've gone for Rice in midfield.
Yeah, I mean, I always talk about Fabinho, maybe Rodri, because they play for the 2 top teams. They're as good as anyone in Europe in that position of breaking up play. But I just think Declan Rice reminds me of is almost an old-fashioned midfield player who'd normally play in a 2. Now we have this holding position, so they sit, and you'd have 2 push forward. I think Declan Rice is almost, I always say, he reminds me a bit of Roy Keane, where he's just playing centre midfield. He's not just a holding midfield player, Declan Rice. I think he likes to get forward. People say he doesn't get enough goals, but in terms of driving forward with the ball, that's what you always associated with midfielders maybe from the past when we were growing up, like a Brian Robson, a Keane, sort of box to box. And I think he's more than just a sitting player, but I'm a huge fan.
Let's have a look at the differences that Gary's gone with then, particularly in those full-back positions. Gary, Kyle Walker ahead of Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson ahead of Joao Cancelo.
Absolutely love Cancelo. I couldn't love him anymore, but I can't ignore Robertson. The best full-back in the league for me by a mile, in that he does both things incredibly well. 8 and 9. This is not Mr. Steady. It's like 6 and 7s out of 10. This is 8 and 9s out of 10s every single week. And the impetus that he gives Liverpool down that left-hand side when it matters in games where it's hurting, he is unbelievable, him. He does more than I think you would ever notice. Obviously, he's got overshadowed at times by the fact that Trent has the unbelievable delivery, which is absolutely fantastic to watch. But Robertson is the best full-back in the league by a mile, in my view.
Not by a mile.
But I would judge full-backs. Sorry, it's how I would judge a fullback.
I know, but you might say he's the best. He's not by a mile.
I think he is. In terms of attacking, in terms of attacking and defensive content, I think put both of them together, for me, he's the best in the league by a mile.
What about Kyle Walker?
I think he's had an unbelievable season. I think when he doesn't play, City miss City miss lots. City's defensive record is as good as Liverpool's. That right-hand side of City's defence and that left-hand side of Liverpool's defence are absolutely brilliant, and that's why I've just split the defence, basically. I think Kyle Walker and Diaz on that side are a better right-hand side than the Liverpool right-hand side, Matip and Trent. If you said to me going into that Champions League final against Vinicius and Benzema, who would I rather have on that side, marking Vinicius, I'd have Kyle Walker and I'd have Diaz than Matip and Trent.
And if you were picking an England team to play in the World Cup later this year, would you have Kyle Walker or Trent Alexander-Arnold?
I would go with Gareth Southgate's decision of picking Kyle Walker. I would.
Reece James.
No, I'd go with Kyle Walker because I just think that England, slightly different reasons why I would go with Kyle Walker with England. They don't keep the, they're not going to keep the ball more than Brazil, Argentina, Portugal, Spain.
Isn't that a reason to play Trent then?
No, I think that they'll never keep the ball even if Trent plays more, so they need players who can keep a clean sheet more. So I think defensively, I think that Kyle will be picked by Gareth Southgate, and I would go with that as well. It is a bit of a conundrum. You said it before with England about how Trent gets into England. Can they put Kyle Walker as right in the back three and play Trent as a right wing back, or Reece James? That's the way I think it'll have to go to probably get Trent in.
Two great teams. They were sport for choice, weren't they? It's been in a fabulous season and it's not done yet.